Alright everyone, it's been a while since I've done an update on this. I thought about putting some videos out, but I thought I'd wait until I've got some major project progress to show you. So here we are, step into my paint booth. We have the shell fully painted, ready to be unmasked. It's been quite a long process getting to this point. I haven't videoed all of it because it would have just been a month-long video of me sanding paint really. So I've done a few choice little bits that I can take you through and show you what I've been doing on the shell to get it to this point. So I'll do those now, and then we'll do the big unmasking, which is always the best bit. I know some of you are wondering why I bothered doing this, but every single panel was flawed, like this, and worse. I ended up buying some industrial strength paint stripper, which worked really well. You can literally watch it taking the paint off. Well, that's the floor cleaned and degreased. Clean enough to eat your dinner off. I won't though, because then I'd have to clean it again. So I was about to put some primer on it, but then I realised this bit had a dodgy repair. I remembered a dent appeared in this during transit one time, and he's attempted to try and remove it, but it was just covered in body filler. I realised the lines weren't quite right, so I'm going to fix it properly. Well, that's a lot better. The dark spots are any remaining slight low spots. I'll probably just get rid of them in with a coat of high build primer, which it's getting anyway. Much better than a big chunk of filler in there. The factory underbody coatings had taken a couple of scrapes here and there, so I'm just touching it in with a brush here, using a bit of U-Pol Raptor. Ended up spraying over the top of it as well, just to make it look perfect, really. And the shell is ready for the second stage of primer. The first stage that I put on is zinc and some etch primer in the high impact places like engine mounts and suspension mounts and things. But you can begin to see how clean this shell is now. It's all one colour. This is what I was seeing, if you couldn't see it before. I've spent a fair bit of time taking out any little dents on the floor, panel beating just little normal dents that a car would have of this sort of age, but that was the only real prep that I needed to do on the shell. It's a very straight car. Once I got the hang of the new gun, I was able to get a pretty decent finish with the primer. I've also started using a dry guide coat. I'm totally sold by this product. It's pretty amazing really. No masking off or anything, and yeah, it works a treat. I'm using my trusty bit of wood sanding block here, which takes no prisoners and shows up any defect. It's much better than a bit of rubber. Especially for anything really flat. Obviously I use a rubber block on curved surfaces, but for a flat surface like this, you can't beat it. This one small section here took me an hour. This side of the bonnet took me about 2 hours. You can start to see where it wasn't flat here coming through. It certainly took a little bit of work, but it's going to be worth it in the end. I got the inside painted. I didn't film the painting process for that because it was a bit too tricky to film while I'm spraying inside a vehicle. Well, that's my final checks before the floor and the bay paint. Everything hand sanded. Little bits of the undersill touched in where needed. Every little dent taken out.
ready to go.
I managed to get some footage this time around though.
Well, that's the burn the floor red. Turned out really nice. A couple of little dry bits that I can polish up, but overall very happy with it. I normally would have done an extra coat on the bay just to get a nice gloss, because I've only done a dust and a colour coat there, but I'm really happy with the way it is. I'm going to leave it. And some awesome noises. It's turned out rather nice. Well, I've had another look at this when it's not 1 o'clock in the morning, and I've spotted bits that I'm just not happy with, bits of prep showing through where I haven't put enough paint on and stuff. I did consider just touching them in with the airbrush, but there's a few more than I would like, so I'm gonna have to repaint it. And the paint's dried now, it's been 2 days, so I'm gonna have to rekey everything. But I want this right, and at this stage it's still all masked up, so it's not that much work. I've just got to key it. There's no real flatting involved, so that's what I'm going to do now. It's a bit sickening given how nice it looks when you don't have a close look at it, but it needs to be done, so that's what's happening. And that's it all keyed off again. Wow, that was painful given how nice it looked, but it's all for the best, and it'll just turn out to be a better job for it as well, so it's all good. Right, that's better. I'm happy with that now. There's a couple of dry little bits here and there, but nothing that won't come up with a quick little hand polish. I decided against black or the factory grey for the underside because the grey is applied underneath the factory coatings, and I could never get them as bad as factory. I couldn't make it look as bad as this, and misses the line in most of the places, but it's original, and I wanted to leave that to show that it's not being rusty. As I say, it's only original once, so instead of trying to make a poor imitation of originality, I decided to go with something way better and went with body colour red. I think I made the right choice. It's definitely the trickiest painting job I've done, painting this floor like this, trying to get gloss everywhere. There's so many different angles that you need to spray from to not get any dry edges and things. Very tricky. I've painted plenty of engine bays in my time, but I've never tried to get a gloss finish on a floor before. I've raptored loads of floors, but that's very, very forgiving compared to this. This is it's definitely a challenge, and I like it. I like it a lot. I wish I could do every car like this. It's beautiful. Yeah, so I made a makeshift paint booth out of a folding gazebo with remote control lights and extraction fan. It's all filtered in and out, carbon filter on the exit as well, just to be a little bit extra safe. Plus it means I can actually use an air-fed mask, which is a lot safer, especially when you're using 2K paint. I went with 2K paint on this, as in paint and hardener rather than paint and then a lacquer over the top. I'm not a big fan of water-based, and it works, but it's just not my preferred method. And this is going to be easier to make any repairs to if needs be. And there's a couple of little bits of dirt landed in it that I might need to use the airbrush on. Nothing major. Where's it gone? Camera's not even picking it up. Oh, there we are. That might need a little bit of airbrush in there. But nothing I can't live with. I probably should have turned it upside down when the paint was drying on the last coat. I didn't think of that though, obviously. I did on the previous coats, don't know how I forgot, but never mind. I always intended on wet sanding it anyway, which is why it's a bit orange peely. There's quite a lot of paint on there with the intention of flattening it back. But I'm really happy with how flat it is. And it's definitely got the wow factor. And I didn't get a single run anywhere on the vehicle. Inside, out, underneath, no runs, all perfect. Barely any dry edges as well. That's mainly down to me using a light when I'm spraying. I used to use a little handheld torch. Since changing to the air fed, I've found the airline, I can't really keep hold of that and the torch at the same time, so I made a light to attach to my spray gun. I might do a little video on that later. I won't be wet sanding it until the car's back together. There's no point because it might get marked until then. You don't want to be assembling a freshly polished car that you can't even put your hands on. That would be a bit silly. But you can see it's pretty damn good already. There's one little dent there that I missed in the sill. It's covered by the sill cover, the side skirt, but I'm a little bit annoyed at myself for not putting a bit of filler on that. It's not the end of the world, really. This is always the best bit, like unwrapping presents at Christmas or something. Engine bay looks good. Interior feels good as well. Don't think we've got any overspray. Excellent, I did a good job masking it. There were quite a few holes to mask up all throughout. Well, I hope you liked that. It's been about 6 weeks and a lot of work since the last update. A lot of late nights, a lot of hours, and we're back to square one really. But it's much better now. I'm really happy with the way it's turned out. I can't stop looking at it, it's beautiful. The next step for me will be painting all the panels and things. I don't think I'll bother filming that because it'll just be more of the same really. So the next time you see this, hopefully I'll be putting things back together, putting parts on it, whether that's the panels or other parts, pipes, wires, suspension, things like that, and I'll be restoring them as well. So there'll be some more interesting stuff, not just paint, but for those of you that like nice paint, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time.